Shalom from Jerusalem. My name is Dr. Amira Ehrlich. I am the coordinator of graduate studies in music education at Levinsky College of Education in Israel. I'm recording today from Jerusalem, Israel, wishing us all shalom, peace, and briut, health. Shalom vebriut. My presentation today for the Spirituality in Music Education Special Interest Group for ISME's 2020 World Conference is a discussion about the use of popular music as a gateway for developing religious authenticity in Jewish religious adolescence. My work is based on my own world, being a religiously observant, or what we would call Orthodox Jew, working as a music educator in religious education, public religious education schools in Israel. And I'm going to talk about the ways in which engaging students in popular music in various ways actually helped cultivate processes of religious identity and what I will call religious authenticity. I'm going to start about talking about Judaism for a little bit. Judaism has a tradition of arguing and deliberating with God. Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jonah, these are just a few of our mythical Jewish leaders who stood up and argued with God. Framing Judaism as a religion of deliberation and perhaps even rebellion has implications for the traditional conceptualization of religion versus spirituality. If arguing with God is a salient feature of the Jewish religion, then religious authenticity in Judaism must entail some aspects of deliberation, if not right-out rebellion. While some religions conceptualize a divide between the religious, the practical, dogma, authority-based, and action aspects of religion versus the spiritual, transcendental, interpretive, and personal, meaning-centered sides of the religion, Judaism promotes a collapse between these two, between the religious and the spiritual. The ways in which one participates in many different kinds of Judaism have in common this aim of combining the two spectrums, once again creating a central purpose for religious authenticity. And when I say religious authenticity in this sense, it is both religious and spiritual. A person enacting Jewish religious authenticity must maintain a constant live dialogue between him or herself and God. There must be dialogue at the minimum, deliberation or actual argument and rebellion at the most. And these thoughts bring me to a conceptualization of Judaism as a kind of rock star religion. You know, if we're talking about rebellion, maybe we're talking about something that isn't that far from rock and pop music. How do I see this? Well, throughout the history of music and music education, rock and pop music has developed some mythical attributes. It's beyond the scope of this paper for me to actually debate, are these attributes correct? Do we agree upon them? But the fact is, they've been out there and they're under discussion. And I'm going to address them today as myths, not as facts, as myths. There is a myth that rock and popular music, in terms of musical and textual attributes, is authentic, very often about rebellion, and very much about youth culture. So these three attributes, as myths of rock and pop music, interact with some notions of Jewish religious authenticity that I'm going to discuss for a moment. In terms of music education, the existence of these three myths of authenticity, rebellion, and youth culture in pop and rock music has been quite instrumental to keeping rock and popular music outside of the music classroom. But recent discourse on popular music in education has been breaking down these barriers and exploring educational applications of popular music as both repertoire and as pedagogy. In my work in a Jewish religiously observant high school for boys, where all of the students were music majors, I took interest in Shraga Fisherman's model of religious Jewish identity construction and what he later called religious authenticity. Fisherman talked about the ways that young Jewish adolescents negotiate their religious Jewish identity, and he noted three main attributes: the enactment of religion and spirituality as a combination and not as a separate entity. Fisherman also said, without any kind of doubt or deliberation, then you're probably not really developing an authentic Jewish religious identity. And in terms of youth, he advocated that this be done through acts of exploration that do not deny youth culture and youth energies. Now, in my work with adolescents, music majors who are undergoing these processes of religious Jewish identity construction, I superimposed Fisherman's three aspects of Jewish identity and religious authenticity with the three myths of rock pop music attributes that I mentioned earlier. And from a triangle, lo and behold, created a Star of David. What else? So this Star of David is my working model where I try to claim that the attributes of rock pop music, including authenticity, rebellion, youth culture, actually can help impact and be used as a laboratory for religious and spiritual development, for youth exploration, including doubt and deliberation. One word about sublimation here. You see, this stream between the two tips of the Star of David, we have the religious and the spiritual, and on the bottom we have youth culture from rock music that, in other words, we can also use youth energy, or more bluntly, even say sexuality. There is an aspect of sexual energy going on here. And I use the word sublimation because in my work I found that when we're working with popular music in the context of a religiously observant school, very often the students and perhaps some of the faculty will conceptualize this sexual energy as an act that can be sublimized and channeled, again, to the spiritual entity and to the enactment of a relationship between the individual and God or the higher being. While I was doing this work in the school, at the same time, there was some kind of spirit of zeitgeist because there were two important developments going on in the world. I already mentioned the development of the popular music and music education discourse where popular music is coming into the classroom. Outside of the classroom, in Israeli Jewish music, during these years that I was working, there was an emergence of a new category of Jewish music style, a new style of popular Jewish music that was shifting away from a tradition of simplistic musical settings of scripture texts towards original lyrics set to new musical styles ranging from jazz, pop, rock, heavy metal, and hip hop. The emergence of this new form of Jewish popular music coincided with the years of my educational pilot, and no doubt had somewhat of a zeitgeist feeling that we were being impacted, but also making our impact on the music industry in Israel, just at the same years that our educational project was developing. But I don't want you to think that my educational enterprise was limited to Jewish pop music. The whole idea of our efforts is creating a platform for music education in which the students are engaging with pop rock traditions, most affiliated with youth culture all over the world, perhaps known as Anglo-American pop rock traditions that include some of the artists that you see here, and also some additional local Israeli rock groups. These bands all became a crucial part of our educational model in that they are models of the types of authenticity, youth energy, and rebellion that we were looking to cultivate. So once again, upon the basics of Fisherman's model of Jewish religious authenticity, I embedded the three top myths of rock pop music that I mentioned and created this working model of musical exploration through which high school music makers engaged in listening, performing, and creating in popular music genres as a central aspect of their religious identity construction processes. To conclude, I would like to play for you a recording of a piece composed and played by an ensemble of 10th graders. This piece is meant to express the fall of energy that they feel after sunset on Saturday night when the Sabbath ends, the Holy Sabbath leaves, and you feel attacked by the mundane world. sanctity seems to be dissolving. This piece is a wonderful example of the use of the electric guitar and the pop rock ensemble to explore spiritual tensions through this. Young boys are attaining a sense of personal religious identity, or what I call religious authenticity. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I'd be happy to be in contact with any of you if you have any comments or thoughts to contribute. Shalom from Jerusalem.